The most radical thing a human being has ever conceived is the notion that suffering could be optional. The foundation of all of ancient wisdom is something that's said by all indigenous peoples and said by Jesus, of course, as well, that the kingdom of heaven surrounds us, and yet men and women don't see it. It's going to sound severe for me to say this to you, but you are responsible for everything you experience. You're responsible for everything you do, and you're responsible for all of your actions and reactions in this world. How can we possibly choose not to suffer, especially when we don't even know that we have a choice? Well, the truth is that there is pain in existence. And that pain is something that we inherit. It's almost the price that we pay for having a body. There's the pain of childbirth. There's the pain in infancy. There's the pain of being in adolescence. There's the pain that we are as an adult. And there's the pain of death. So there is pain. That's part of our journey. We have knee pain. We have headaches. Pain does exist. We become ill. We have serious things happen. But the idea that suffering is optional and that we can choose not to suffer is very radical, revolutionary. And the way that you make this choice over and over again is something like learning to play the guitar or playing the piano. There's a practice that you use. We use a rock, a small rock. So I invite you to find a small rock. Don't get a round, smooth pebble kind of a thing or a little round piece of gravel. Get a pointy, something with edges to it, so that when you step on this, which is something you're going to do, you can actually feel the presence of the rock. This rock is actually pretty accurately a representation of the amount of pain that each of us inherits in our life. It's not overwhelming. It's not monumental. It is manageable, but how we handle this pain is what causes suffering. The choices that we make about it, knowing that we even have a choice about it. So I'm going to demonstrate using this rock, a practice that I want you to do every morning. As soon as you get up, it takes you maybe 2 minutes. You'll still have 3 minutes left over for other shamanic practices in the rest of the day, but this will be the practice using the rock. So you get up in the morning, you have your rock on your nightstand perhaps, or on an altar. We'll talk about that in a moment. And you put on your socks first thing. Put on your socks, and you take the rock and you slip it into your sock at the bottom of your foot. Then you get out of bed and you walk around in a circle. Ow. 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 Make sure that it's in the most uncomfortable place you can find. Oh, that's not that hard to do actually when you've got a rock in your sock. At a certain point, after walking around the room, there's going to be a point where you say to yourself, this doesn't work to be walking on this rock, and I'm going to have to do something about it. And you reach into your sock, and you pull the rock out, and you hold it in your hand, and walk a couple laps, victory laps. You're no longer in pain. When the rock is in your sock, the journey of 1,000 miles, every step is painful. You look around at people around you and their lives and you see that everyone, step by step, is in pain and suffering. You're suffering. You don't know why everything has to be so painful, and it's because the pain of existence is being held unconsciously. You're not holding it in awareness. To bring it from unconsciousness in your sock to consciousness means to actually do something, to notice that you're in pain, to reach down and to take this rock of existence and hold it in your hand. So good enough, right? Now we're no longer suffering? Well, not exactly, because here now in my hand, you notice because I'm holding onto this rock, this hand has become disabled. It has become no longer capable of doing the things I need to do, pouring the water, stirring the coffee, writing. I can do some of those things, and in fact many people do hold the rock, the pain of their existence, in their hand in consciousness and say things like, I am the victim of abuse, and that's why I am the way I am. I had a really tough childhood and I didn't really get an education. That's why I'm not able to get a good job. They say things like, I'm the adult child of an alcoholic, or I am an alcoholic. See? The reason why I'm incapacitated and the reason why I have limitations is because this rock is in my hand and I'm holding it. So this place of empowered victimhood is also only a step along the way to making suffering a choice rather than something that you suffer and experience all the time. So even though we have moved the pain of existence from unconsciousness, where we step on it every day and every step in our lives is suffering, to consciousness in our hand, we're still disempowered because we're holding on to something and we're aware of it at every moment. Every act of intimacy has the pain of existence in it. So we continue to suffer. Now we're suffering consciously instead of unconsciously. Here we try to adapt a number of strategies. We take the rock, the pain, and we try to throw it away. And what it does is it's like a boomerang. It swoops around in creation and it comes back into our unconsciousness and we find ourselves walking on it. And for many people, dealing with suffering ends up dealing with it unconsciously, becoming conscious of it with therapy, counseling, something like that, then trying to eliminate it out of their lives and having it show back up in the unconsciousness. So there are many, many ineffective ways to deal with the pain of existence, but there is an effective thing that you can do. In all the old traditions, it's called offering your suffering to the divine. Instead of holding your pain of existence in your unconsciousness or in your consciousness, you place it on an altar to divinity. You offer it to the sacred. You recognize that the price of admission to embodiment is pain, and you willingly accept it and you offer it to divinity and you hold it on a sacred altar. Create an altar for yourself. As you do this practice, create a place where you decorate, where you put some flowers and a crystal and a bell or something beautiful, and offer the pain of your existence to the divine over and over and over again, morning after morning after morning, of choosing the beautiful life of not suffering as opposed to the discordant life of pounding it with a fist and hearing ugly, awful music as your life experience. This is still your pain. You're not going to be able to get rid of it. But by offering it to the sacred and putting it in a holy place, you recognize that you have the ability to live your life separate from suffering. You don't need to suffer. Suffering is optional. As you practice this over and over and over again, morning after morning after morning, this process of moving from unconsciousness in your sock to conscious awareness in your hand to awareness of the sacredness and the divinity and the opportunity of life and offering it to the sacred, you liberate yourself from suffering. You'll still feel the pain of existence, no way around that, but you don't need to suffer.